A girl with one leg was always alone, until a single dad came along. Sometimes the richest people in the world aren't the ones with the most money, but the ones with the biggest hearts. In a quiet neighborhood park, where autumn leaves drifted like whispers from the sky, a little girl named Emma sat alone on a weathered bench every afternoon. At just 7 years old, she wore a bright pink prosthetic leg that clicked softly against the pavement as she walked, but she rarely walked very far. Most days, she watched other children run, laugh, and play tag, while she stayed still, her eyes full of longing, but her feet anchored by loneliness. Emma hadn't always been alone. Her parents had loved her fiercely until a tragic car accident took them both when she was only 5. Left with only a photo album and a prosthetic she was still learning to trust, Emma was placed in foster care. Though kind, her foster family was stretched thin. 3 other children, 2 jobs, and little time for one quiet girl who didn't know how to ask for attention. So, the park became her refuge. Not because it brought her joy, but because it was the only place where her loneliness didn't feel like a burden to anyone else. Then, one golden October afternoon, everything changed. Ryan was new to the neighborhood, a single dad trying to rebuild his life after his wife's sudden passing from illness a year prior. He carried grief like a second shadow, but for his 6-year-old son Jake, he smiled through it. Every day after school, they walked to the park. "It's good for us," Ryan would say. Though, truthfully, he wasn't sure if it was helping or just reminding him of everything he'd lost. That day, Jake spotted Emma immediately. "Daddy, why is that girl sitting all by herself?" he asked, tugging at Ryan's sleeve. Ryan followed his son's gaze. He saw the prosthetic leg and, for a split second, looked away, unsure of what to say, afraid of saying the wrong thing. But Jake didn't hesitate. Before Ryan could stop him, Jake ran over, his backpack bouncing, and plopped down beside Emma on the bench. "Hi, I'm Jake. Do you want to play?" he asked, holding out a slightly squashed bag of gummy worms, a treat he'd saved all week. Emma blinked, startled. No one had ever just sat with her before. She glanced toward Ryan, who stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, looking both nervous and hopeful. Hi," Emma whispered. "I'm Emma." "Cool name," Jake grinned. "My dad says names are like magic spells. Yours sounds like emerald, like a treasure." Emma's lips twitched into the tiniest smile. Ryan approached slowly, crouching down to their level. "Hey, Emma, I'm Ryan. Jake and I come here most days. You live nearby?" She nodded. "My foster house is on Elm Street." Ryan didn't ask her about her leg. He didn't treat her like she was broken or fragile. He just talked to her about the weather, about Jake's obsession with dinosaurs, about how the park's old oak tree looked like it had seen 100 years of secrets. And for the first time in a long time, Emma didn't feel invisible. That day turned into the next and the next. Ryan and Jake began saving 2 gummy worm packs, one for Jake, one for Emma. They brought an extra soccer ball. Jake taught Emma how to kick with her prosthetic, laughing when it bounced wildly off course. Emma, in turn, showed Jake how to draw chalk rainbows on the pavement that lasted until the rain washed them away. But it wasn't just play. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, Emma finally asked, "Why did you start talking to me?" Jake looked confused. "Because you looked like you needed a friend." Ryan added gently, "And because everyone deserves one." Something cracked open inside Emma that day. A dam of silence and sorrow began to leak hope. Weeks passed. Ryan started walking Emma home after their park visits. He introduced himself to her foster parents, offering to help with school pickups or weekend activities. He never overstepped, but he never pulled away either. Slowly, steadily, he wove himself and Jake into the fabric of Emma's life. Then came the night of the thunderstorm. Rain lashed against windows, thunder booming like the sky itself was grieving. Emma's foster home was dark, power out, and her room felt colder than ever. She curled under her blanket, clutching the photo of her parents, flinching with every lightning strike. Suddenly, there was a knock at the front door. It was Ryan, soaked to the bone, holding a sleeping bag and a flashlight. I heard the storm was going to last all night," he said to the foster mom. "Jake insisted we check on Emma. He won't stop worrying." They let him in. Upstairs, Ryan found Emma eyes wide open and trembling. Without a word, he unrolled the sleeping bag beside her bed. "Mind if I camp out for a bit? Jake's snoring's so loud I couldn't sleep anyway," he joked softly. Emma nodded. They talked in hushed voices, about stars, about Jake's dream of being a park ranger, about how Emma wanted to be a dancer one day, even with one leg. "You know," Ryan said gently, "dancing isn't about how many legs you have. It's about how much joy you let out of your heart." Tears slipped down Emma's cheeks. "I miss them so much." "I know," Ryan said, voice thick. "I miss her too." In that quiet, storm-lit room, two wounded souls found comfort, not in fixing each other, but in simply being together. Months later, on a crisp spring morning, Ryan sat across from Emma's caseworker. Papers were stacked neatly between them. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, not unkindly. "Adoption is a lifelong commitment, Ryan. You're still healing yourself." Ryan looked out the window, at the park where it all began, and smiled. "Maybe healing isn't something you finish. Maybe it's something you do together." A few weeks after that, on a sunny Saturday filled with balloons and backyard cupcakes, Emma officially became Emma Carter. Jake tackled her in a hug so tight she nearly toppled over. "Now you're my sister forever!" he cheered. Emma laughed, a real full laugh that startled even her. Ryan knelt before her, eyes shimmering. "You don't have to be alone anymore," he whispered. And she wasn't. Years later, Emma would dance at her high school talent show, graceful, radiant, unstoppable. In the front row, Ryan and Jake would cheer the loudest. And when a little girl in the audience with a prosthetic leg watched with tears in her eyes, Emma would walk over afterwards, kneel down and say, "Hi, I'm Emma. Do you want to be friends?" Because kindness once given never really ends. It just finds new hands to hold. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today. At ACA Story Tales, we believe in the power of compassion, the courage to reach out, and the miracles that happen when we choose to see each other, not as strangers, but as family waiting to happen. New stories every day, because the world needs more light, and you're part of it. Thanks for watching.